When writers and producers consider making a sequel to a hit movie, there are a number of elements they could explore. What cast is returning? What characters will you introduce? What's the new threat? What's the arc of our hero going through this story? And one of those elements is going to be the setting. A good example is James Bond. Each movie has serious thought given as to what exotic locales Bond is going to travel to, whether it's Jamaica and Dr. No, or Japan and You Only Live Twice. The setting for the epic chase scenes is a key component. Now that brings us to our microgenre, snow sequels. Sequels that utilize snow as their main feature. The James Bond franchise can be seen in a snow setting in, about 1 out of every 4 movies. You Only Live Twice is one of those, along with For Your Eyes Only, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. Now there are 3 main groups of snow movies that I thought we could cover in this video. Sequels whose main feature is snow, movies that innovate a genre with snow, and sequels that feature snow because it's a Christmas movie. We'll look at the first 2, but the third we're going to skip, okay? Because in those cases, snow is only incidental to the real purpose of making that film, which is to make a Christmas movie. So Harold and Kumar 3 is out, Christmas Vacation out, Ernest Saves Christmas is gone. The reason why Die Hard 2 would still make this list is because while it takes place at Christmas, it's not about Christmas. Fair? So let's look at the sequels that feature snow as part of the plot or main component of the movie. This is going to be the bulk of our list today, with only 2 examples that I could think of for movies that innovate a genre with snow, and I'll explain what that means in a few minutes. So Die Hard 2 is my prime example, right? I mean, out on the runway, the icicle in the eye, the snowmobile chase scenes, these are all scenes that wouldn't play in any other Die Hard movie. Because Die Hard 2 is the snow movie in the franchise. Die Hard's a weird but perfect example about what I'm talking about with these location-centric franchises. The first movie's in a building, the second movie is in an airport in the snow, the third movie is across a city during the day, the fourth movie is the nighttime movie, and the fifth is the Russian one, right? Honestly, I don't care. I'm not going to look that one up. It's like the Mission to Moscow of Die Hard movies. Batman Returns is another good example. I don't know why Tim Burton would choose to make a Batman movie at Christmas time, but it does make the movie even more magical. And some might argue that maybe magic isn't what a Batman movie needs, and I couldn't really argue that point. But despite the silly penguins with the rockets on their back and that stupid Batmobile splintering into a toothpick mobile, I like this movie, and I think that the snow is a nice addition. There's also snow in The Dark Knight Rises for some of the movie towards the end, not really covering the entire movie. I don't really think of Rises as a snow movie, but I mention it here anyway. And that brings up the question of how much snow do you need to be on this list? Empire Strikes Back only has 4 locations: Hoth, Asteroids in Space, Dagobah, and Cloud City. Hoth's just the opening scenes, and yet, man, it's really iconic and unforgettable, isn't it? It makes most of the posters and has iconic scenes that have yet to be topped and are still referenced and copied today.
Hey guys, you ever seen that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back? You know that part? Where they're on the snow planet? With the walking thingies?
Let's just do a couple more examples and then we'll swap over to movies that innovate a genre by utilizing snow. AVP could be seen as the first Aliens vs. Predator movie, but it would make more sense to me to see it as a sequel to both Alien and Predator movies, seeing as we're really standing on the shoulders of both franchises when we see this crossover hit. And the entire movie takes place in the Antarctic, in a temple hundreds of feet beneath the snow and ice, which is a new one for either franchise. The movie itself wasn't the best of either series, but the snow did give an opportunity for some nice visuals. Planet of the Apes ran for 8 sequels and or remakes, depending on how you want to look at it, to get to War of the Planet of the Apes, where we see the apes in a frozen landscape. That third film of the new trilogy is well suited to the isolation and furthering of the post-apocalyptic world of the Apes movies, but before a word of the script had been written, as they were finishing the special effects on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, director Matt Reeves turned to his visual effects supervisor and said, "Next movie, apes in snow." And then he walked away. Now, you could see it as thematically appropriate, or you could view it as a special effects challenge to render, but before they even had a single word of the script came the basic visual idea: apes in snow. When I was a kid and saw Jackie Chan's First Strike in the video store, I thought it was, as presented, a standalone movie, much in the same way that I first saw Super Cop, not knowing that in China, Super Cop was actually Police Story 3. Well, it turns out First Strike was actually Police Story 4. Each of the Police Story movies is bigger and more impressive than the last, and First Strike is no different. The entire movie takes place on a James Bond saving the world scale adventure, and much of it is in frozen temperatures, often with Jackie suffering nearly nude, unprepared for the climate. Each of the first 4 Police Story movies is worth seeing at least once, and the spin-off with Michelle Yeoh, released in North America as Super Cop 2, is also fun. First Strike was the 4th movie in the series, but in the Tremors franchise, they don't find graboids in the snow until the 6th movie, A Cold Day in Hell. There was a family of Tremors creators that shepherded the franchise through the first 4 films and a TV series. Parts 5, 6, and 7 are a completely different creative team, with the only returning element being Michael Gross as the legendary Burt Gummer. You can tell these 3 newer films are of a much cheaper production level, and some of that is demonstrated in A Cold Day in Hell, like when they shoot sand for snow locations and try to just tint everything blue. The entire trilogy of these new Tremors films seems to fully embrace the idea of location changes being one of the defining elements of their proposed sequel. In Tremors Bloodline, that's part 5, where they went to South Africa, and in A Cold Day in Hell, we're up in the Arctic, but still shooting in South Africa, and Shrieker Island, which is part 7, splits the difference on an equatorial tropical island, which they shot in Thailand. While the franchise really became the Burt Gummer franchise, the new movies did make an attempt at building an ensemble crew. Jamie Kennedy returns from the 5th movie as Burt's screw-up son, and the movie introduces us to the daughter of Val, that's Kevin Bacon's character and the leading lady of the first Tremors movie, who have only been alluded to ever since in sequels. Her name is Valerie, and so the movie has a Val McKee in one form or another.
Here's a blast from the past, Mr. Gummer. I'm Val and Rhonda's daughter.
No. Val and Rhonda from the OG Graboid Apocalypse?
Crazy, huh?
One other factor, maybe, is an incredibly, really superficial similarity between it and another movie, a sci-fi horror classic. Snow, monster in the ice, taking place at a science outpost in the Arctic snow. John Carpenter's The Thing, right? There's really no comparison. But it's been mentioned in a few other reviews that I've read, and I think of it when I watch the movie in a sort of squint really hard until it's blurry, and then maybe there's some hint of that flavor from The Thing that, I don't know. The fact that it filmed in the desert sands in South Africa as snow means it doesn't quite sell the illusion, but as a 6th Tremors movie, it's got some fun moments. My last pick for a snow sequel proper also rocks a descriptive subtitle and is another part 6. Lone Wolf and Cub, White Heaven in Hell in 1974, also released as Shogun Assassin, Cold Road to Hell. Now, I mentioned this film in my series on the inspiration of Ninja Scroll. You can check that out in my Cinechronology playlist. In this final installment of the Lone Wolf series, it opens in snow and ends on a snowy mountainside in one of the biggest slaughter battles of all time, with the baby cart on skis and the Lone Wolf taking out an entire army single-handedly. This is quite a dark entry in the series, even incorporating black magic and resurrected warriors, which is cool. Snow really only bookends the movie, but it is incredibly memorable. It makes this movie stand out from the rest of the franchise when you watch them all. Now, recently, there's also been a Friday the 13th fan film called Never Hike Alone, which got itself a prequel called Never Hike in the Snow in 2020, where the entire concept is to see Crystal Lake in the winter. The original actor Tom Matthews even returns as a grizzled old Tommy Jarvis. I always thought that the Jason franchise really missed that opportunity. Nobody wanted the body-swapping magic bullshit in Jason Goes to Hell. Nobody wanted the series rebooted for Hollywood without Kane Hodder and the running Jason. There's just so much money spent when all they needed was a vat of Kiro syrup and a cabin in the snow. So I'm glad somebody did it. Both are available to watch for free on YouTube, so I will try to remember to put the links down below. Let's talk about movies that evolve a genre. Maybe evolve is too hyperbolic. Maybe innovate is a better word. I've only got a couple examples of these even. One of the films that came to mind is The Great Silence, the Corbucci spaghetti western classic. Django introduced mud, and The Great Silence introduced snow to the genre. It's such an easy way to distinguish your movie from the pack. So when somebody says, there's this spaghetti western in the snow, everybody knows it's The Great Silence. My other genre innovator is Dead Snow, the Norwegian zombie movie released in 2009. Again, it's a lower budget movie, creatively written and shot, deserving of the sequel that it produced in 2014. And from the time I saw the trailer, the concept seemed obvious to me and welcome. Zombies in the snow. Now, I don't want to sell them short. Both movies are funny and well made, whether it was filmed in the snow or not. But for all intents and purposes, the main selling point is zombies in the snow. So there we go. That's all I could think of for snow movies, excluding the obvious Christmas sequels. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Which movie did it best? If you've got another suggestion, let me know in the comments, please. We'll see you next week.